Hi everyone, it's Roger and James here from the What's on Disney Plus podcast. This is episode number 99 and we are recording on the 26th of September 2020. We've got lots of stuff to be talking about this week. We're going to be talking about Mulan and whether or not that was a failure because Disney ended up releasing or announcing loads of delays, pushing back Black Widow. We'll also be talking about the WandaVision trailer. We'll also be talking about the new Nick Fury show. We're going to be sharing some thoughts on some of the new Disney Plus releases. But before we get into any of that, just a bit of housekeeping. If you haven't already done so, make sure you do subscribe either on the audio platforms such as Spotify, iTunes, Google Play. You can also now find us on Amazon Podcasts. And also, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're just about approaching 50,000 subscribers. So if you can join over there, that'd be even better. And also a big shout out to our supporters through Patreon and YouTube memberships. That really does make a lot of difference where you can help support the channel and you get access to content a little bit earlier. We also have a question and answer video each week where you can ask questions if you are a member. So as part of that, I just want to say a big thank you to Andrew and Julie, Darren, The Juice, Lauren, Sarah, and What's on Netflix on Patreon for being gold members and above. Also on YouTube as well. Just a big hello and thank you to Jay, Joshua, Drew, and Sarah as well for being gold members on YouTube. So yeah, so let's jump into it. So this week Disney announced that they are going to be delaying Black Widow. It's now being pushed back to May the 7th, 2021. This has also then had the effect where they've then reshuffled Shang-Chi to July the 9th. And then the Eternals has now been pushed back to November the 5th. So basically, pretty much everything's ended up in almost like a year's delay. I think Shang-Chi has actually moved forward a little bit. It's kind of moving around. I think that was originally going to be February, but that's obviously been pushed back. They've also moved some other movies, such as Death on the Nile, moved back to around Christmas time. West Side Story has pushed back a whole year until December. They've also pushed around some of the other smaller titles. Wasn't a huge surprise to see this because obviously right now the virus is having a big hit on cinemas as a whole. Wonder Woman, they've pushed back till Christmas. There's really nothing much coming out. Over here in Europe, numbers are rising rapidly with the autumn kicking in and schools going back and things shutting back down again. And just generally, I think the faith of people going to cinemas is really low. So that's moved them all back, which obviously means now that Black Widow, pretty much a year delay. That's what that one had. No MCU movies this year. Luckily, we are going to see WandaVision, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. But the big thing really from this is Soul is still sticking to its November Thanksgiving release date, which I'm going to be honest, I think they've kept it there for a reason, but I don't think it's going to hit that because I can't see families taking their whole family to cinemas during the middle of this for a kids movie. A family movie is the worst type of movie to, a Marvel movie would have brought in the adults, but I cannot see people going. So that kind of leads on to the question of, was Mulan's Premier Access a failure because Disney haven't done anything with Black Widow? Because we thought if it was a success, because there was a lot of talk about them doing like 200 million and it was a really big thing. Turns out the people that were doing the math on that were actually completely wrong. And it did I think they're estimating about 90 million. So it put it on par with Tenet. So by the time, I think Tenet has now taken more money than Mulan. And yeah, there's just a general consensus that Mulan must have failed for Black Widow to have been pushed back. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I'm not sure if must have is the right word, but I suspect that they were hoping for a larger amount of money. And you look at something like Tenet and yeah, it initially did not make as much money as Mulan did, but it's had relatively consistent sales given the environment. Whereas Mulan, I'm presuming, kind of had big sales that first weekend, and then just you were either going to buy it the weekend it was out, or you were going to wait until December, or you were just going to ignore it completely. So Tenet continues to kind of trickle some money in, and I think they're looking at that going, all right, yeah, it made some big noise. We got some publicity, not always positive publicity about it, but Tenet seems to be doing better with the old model, even in a diminished environment.
Well, I think the big thing with Tenet is it's pulling in money because it's still in the cinema. People are going and it's the only thing really out, so it's pulling in money each week. But there's a reason why everyone is pulling all their movies from cinemas, because there's not a lot of people going. And the trouble is with Mulan is, was Mulan a failure because of the price? Was it a failure of the movie? Was it a failure because of all the controversy over it? There's lots of different aspects to it, and they're all going to take a different thing about it. Now, I would not be at all surprised if Soul, if they tried another swing at the bat with this one. Would they attempt Soul again? Would they maybe put it at $20? See, because right now, it's hard to know. Could they? There's a reason why they kept Soul where it was. They didn't push that one back again. They can do a last minute ditch in November and go, maybe like the first week in November and go, yeah, things are still not kind of working out. We're going to move it. Or they could even release it in cinemas and then release it maybe and come up with a deal and go, well, Jewel. I don't know. But Soul staying at the Thanksgiving weekend doesn't make any sense to keep it in cinemas. So I'm wondering, or they could just do a complete flip and go, right, okay, well, we want everyone to shoot up for their annual subscriptions for Disney Plus. We'll give it away and do it as a nice little, oh, aren't we amazing? And here it is on Disney Plus, which they could do. They could. November would be a good time to do it, because that's when everyone's annual subscriptions is up, and they might be just like, all right, we just need to do something with this one.
It's certainly a possibility. I could also see them doing maybe like a hybrid style release where they put it into theaters, but they also say it's a premium rental, $15, $20, or premium ownership. I don't know. There's a lot of options available to them. I know that if it is only in theaters, people will go to see it. Thanksgiving here is a big time for family, and actually family movies do very, very well on Thanksgiving weekend under normal circumstances. I won't go see it, but I'm sure that there will be plenty of people to see it. And financially, yeah, it's not going to be, the numbers they want or the numbers that they would have expected under normal circumstances, but they may be looking at it and going, at least we turn a profit, or at least we don't lose money. And there will be a lot of people, especially around Thanksgiving. By Thanksgiving, we'll be at what, the 9-month point, give or take?
Yeah.
We'll be at that point where people are just like, I need to get out of the house. I need to do something with my family. This might be the first time that people have seen their family since March, if they live separately, like my family does. And plus you eat all that food. A lot of that common sense kind of is like, no, it's worth the risk. We're going to go see Soul or whatever. Not saying that's the right choice, but food coma plus, feelings that have been suppressed for 8-9 months can make some interesting decisions.
So this is where the side of things coming across on obviously from the international side of things, because over here in the UK we now have the rule of 6, so you're not allowed more than 6 people together for your family, and we've been told that that's in place for a while. So Christmas, etc., you can't have any more than 6, and that doesn't even mean if there's a change, because half the country is unable to even go to people's or even meet up now because of the numbers. So therefore, like over here and most of Europe now, that's no longer, the thing about getting together as a family, that's not even really an option anymore. And that won't be the option for the whole winter. So this is where that kind of changeover comes in of the winter is not going to be friendly for cinemas. And I know the cinemas have put in like a massive loss. They've been losing massive amount of numbers. I don't see Soul hitting cinemas. I just can't see it. I think it would be kind of, in some ways, I know obviously America pulls in things, but it's just not going to work the same way. The numbers aren't going to be high enough. I wouldn't be at all surprised if they went to cinemas and go, look, you can have it, but we want it as well. And kind of go, look, this is, we need a new model for this situation. Because on one hand, the cinemas are happy that they push back Black Widow and stuff, because it means that they are going to make the money from it. But they're also a bit like, well, you've got to throw us something. And it's a bit like, it's not the studio's responsibility to look after the cinemas, ultimately. While at the same time they need them, it's the studios need, it's like they can't release all these things and be like, well, we're helping out the studios or the cinemas, because it just wouldn't make any sense financially. So Soul is a bit of an odd one, because that's basically the next big movie out, and we're talking at least 2 more months. I've just got a feeling that they're going to end up, it, if they're either going to have another swing at Premier Access to show that this model works, and it could work. Right now, I know they said it was a one-off. Black Widow moving to me was along the lines of, well, it didn't do anywhere near the numbers we want it to do. Black Widow, they might still be thinking it's $1 billion movie. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if we're going to have that one in 2021 at all. But yeah, Soul is that kind of weird thing of what can they do with it? Where can they take it? I think it's going to be an interesting few weeks in the build up to it. They've kind of got October where they can kind of just let everything slide and let it run down a bit, and then they can decide really for like November.
Yeah, I guess we'll just have to wait and see. And there's a lot of variables into it as well. I don't necessarily see them pushing Black Widow back as a failure for Mulan. I don't know what numbers they're using as failure numbers. If it was me, I would have gone at least break even, which at $90 million it would not have done. But they could also just be going, we have only so much content available. Sure, we're beginning to produce again, but that stuff's not going to be available for a long time. And so it could be a combination of Premier Access didn't work the way we wanted it to, and also, man, we've really got to stretch this out or we're going to be completely out of stuff to show you by the end of December.
Well, I can see the thing is to me as well of like, you think of like 2021 right now, Disney have got West Side Story, that's in the can. Eternals, that's already in the can. Shang-Chi, they're finishing that filming now in Australia. So that one's there. One Black Widow now is already in the can because that one was ready. Jungle Cruise, that was done. What else did a couple of the other ones they've pushed back. They're still working on the animated movies, things like Bob's Burgers, that sort of all the animated stuff is still carrying on as per usual. So they got probably most of 2021 probably already filmed. So they're pretty much going to have the whole of next year just filming to get back on track. So if that's the thing is they're now thinking like 2022, 2023 of trying to get a thing. So they've pretty much taken their entire 2020 slate and just dropped it to 2022. And everything now is pushing back. I mean, now they are getting back to filming. There's been a lot of talk of the last few weeks of filming restarting. I mean, like the Mighty Ducks series. I think they've also Loki is now back underway. Falcon and the Winter Soldier has been carrying on for a couple of weeks. I think there's talk of Hawkeye starting anytime soon. Same thing with Miss Marvel. There's a lot of shows now starting and they're filming in Atlanta. They're also filming up in Vancouver and other countries. But one test result throws everything out for 2 weeks. So suddenly, like we saw with the Batman, that happened, bang, stops. They've all got to carry on. And then they've got to come back. And then, you never know how many, you only need 4 people out of maybe 100 crew to get it. And suddenly then you're looking at a 2-month delay.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is the current reality of media, period. Not just movie making, but television, heck, even news studios and all that are getting affected by it. We have seen that bubbles, the so-called bubbles, can work. The NHL and the NBA have shown that over here in the States. But at the scale we're talking about, the number of different productions we're talking about, that's a lot of people you got to keep in line and committing to not being near their family, being completely isolated from everything except this one production that they're working on. And some will be able to do it and some won't.
Well, this kind of not really Disney related, but it kind of ties in with the production. The Great British Bake Off returned this week. And what they did is they all went into, all the contestants and all the crew and everybody went into a 2-week sort of isolation. They're all now in one big bubble where they're able to film the series because they all, and they can get close to each other and stuff because they all know they're tested. Same thing. And my brother he's been doing a job. They all ended up kind of working together. And this is that kind of side thing of that's how they're going to do it. The trouble is you're only one person away from that decides to go out or, meet somebody, that happened, I think, in Iceland with some of the footballers. Two of them went off and sort of met up with 2 people. Suddenly, the whole thing gets brought down. And that's where they're going to come into. But I think we're going to see much smaller sets. They're probably going in now with these things in mind. I know, like the four Love and Thunder, they're going to be filming that using the volume, what we see from the Mandalorian. They're going to be using that technology a lot on the big movies, so they can save going different places, and they just do a lot of it on sound sets and keeping things going. And I was watching a video the other day, and they were showing how one of our soaps, EastEnders, and they're filming everything, and they're using like their real life couples to do like kissing scenes. They're using scenes where there's like a fence between them, where you're looking through and seeing like bars and barriers, but actually what you don't see, there's actually a shield between them. So when they're talking really close, you can't quite see, but there's a line down the middle, and you know they're just getting around it. And I think we're going to see a lot of that going forward. I know, like the Avatar movies, they're filming down in New Zealand. So the thing is, things are going to start moving again, and TV shows are coming in, but drama is the one that's really been hit, and that's going to affect Disney Plus of what we're going to see going forward. Because this past week we saw the new trailers for telling you everything that's going to be coming to Disney Plus in the fall, and a lot of people are going, "Oh, wow, I was expecting a lot more," and I'm going, "That's a lot. 2 series is actually, or 3 different drama series over a space of 3 months. That's actually going to be, that's going to keep us a lot." And you think that's bad? We wait till we get into like January, February, when there's going to be even less.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was talking about. We're about to hit a pretty hefty dead zone here, and the question will be, how long does it last for? Sure, there will be content, but will be content that you're super excited to watch. Maybe in normal circumstances, it's content you wouldn't even think about twice, but now you're just like, it's something new. Please, just give me something new.
Yeah, I mean, we just started watching Cobra Kai on Netflix. It's just like
I've heard that's very good.
Yeah, we binged the entire season 1 in a day. So that was how it's basically, it's a Karate Kid sequel.
No,
I didn't
it's
even
not
know
basically. It is a Karate Kid sequel,
Yeah,
just from
yeah,
the
it
other
is.
perspective.
You know, but even that, they've got him in there and they've got all the rest of it. But it's that kind of thing of, we didn't know it was there, and it kind of, you know, it's been around for a while, but it just caught our attention. And we're trying out, you know, there is that kind of thing of going, and I was saying this to some people the other day, going, well, they're going, "Oh, there's nothing really on." So we're going to you have to start looking at the back catalogue. You know, you have to just start jumping in, and maybe that series you didn't try, you want to give it a try. I just think for Disney Plus to have WandaVision, Mandalorian, and The Right Stuff all arriving this winter, I think that's a really good lineup. I mean, we've not had any real drama since The Mandalorian ended. So to have 3 seasons for the winter, I think that's pretty good, and I think that's a pretty strong lineup. And yeah, it just makes sense. I mean, WandaVision, we know it's coming. According to a lot of reports, when you looked at the source code, WandaVision is apparently going to be arriving on Thanksgiving. We're going to get the first episode then. Obviously, that is not official, but I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case.
Thanksgiving, or maybe the Friday after, since Friday is the typical drop date, but it wouldn't surprise me if they dropped it on Thanksgiving too. And also, from what we saw of the trailer, why don't we just go into the trailer discussion, I suppose. It's got that kind of old-timey 50s, 60s sitcom thing, which actually really jives very well with how Americans view Thanksgiving. It's kind of a window to an older era, you know, big family gatherings, everyone around the table just stuffing themselves silly, sharing stories, maybe not appropriate stories in some cases, but that kind of skew. It's the one holdover that really feels like you could have just been like, yeah, everyone's having some turkey and some mashed potatoes and whatnot, and it's still the 50s. And that kind of rolls with what we saw of the WandaVision.
Yeah, I mean, that trailer was wacky.
It was nuts.
Completely wacky. You start watching it going, this thing is bonkers. I mean, you know, we're set in the 50s, it's all black and white, and then time sort of changes fast forward, and Vision knows something's not quite right. And, you know, we've got flash forwards, flashbacks. It's going to be absolutely bonkers. And it's going to be the only bit of MCU this year. We don't know how many episodes it is, whether or not it's going to be 6 or 8 or 4, we don't know. So that will, you know, if they start dropping WandaVision, don't expect the whole season at once. They'll be stretching this one out. Yeah, that will see us right through December into Christmas, and maybe even to New Year. Um, I just thought the trailer, it just looked absolutely wacky.
It
And I'm kind of a bit like, okay, I'm kind of liking the idea of them doing something completely different. You know, allowing them, if it's all completely in Wanda's head, which is what we're expecting, it kind of makes sense in some ways.
Yeah, they never really explored Wanda's powers very much in the movies. You kind of get bits and pieces of it. You get that she's got magical kind of things, maybe a little telekinetic ability going on there, but they never really explored it. And if you go from the comics version, her powers are absolutely insane. They're literally described as like they warp reality, and
Well,
and that's what
I
they're
was,
going for
I was
here.
going to add because we kind of saw that in Age of Ultron, where she was playing around with them in the boat scene in Wakanda. But then we never saw any more of that since. I mean, we didn't see that in any of the other movies. Civil War, Avengers, Infinity. We never saw any more of that since Age of Ultron.
Yeah, and that I would say is a failure of storytelling on their part because she is an important character, and they just did not define what her powers are at all. I mean, they may have said in interviews like, yeah, she could have taken Thanos on by herself, and following the comics power setup, she absolutely could have in a fair fight. Maybe if he didn't have the Infinity Gauntlet, but we don't get that in the movies, and her powers are very undefined. So this will be an interesting take. I hope it is kind of a definition of her powers in addition to everything else. We can come out of the series and go, this is what Wanda does.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's going to be a trippy ride all the way through.
Yeah, and I'm kind of interested to see where they go with it. I mean, it all looks fun and different, and that's just right now be exactly what we want. Just something to watch. So the WandaVision trailer, it definitely so apparently one of the most watched trailers ever. Really massive numbers, millions and millions of watches. People are hungry for this. I mean, this is going to be a huge, huge win for Disney Plus. This is going to bring in a huge amount of Marvel fans for when that one drops. And yeah, I think this one's going to be a big one because the interest in that trailer shows that there's an appetite for these series.
Yeah, and if they can put together a Falcon and the Winter Soldier trailer before the end of WandaVision, so we're talking December here probably. If they can drop a trailer for that around December, around the end of the series, I think that will keep the hype train rolling and probably keep their subscriptions going for the month-to-month people for quite some time.
Well, that's the key thing because looking here, right, the trailer's at like 13 million. That's quite a bit. That's quite a lot of interest. Yeah, and I think that's going to be a big thing moving forward. There was also news broke yesterday that apparently Samuel L. Jackson is returning for a new series featuring Nick Fury. That's all been reported by the big trades. We don't yet know what that one is. We know very little. Now, whether or not it's a Nick Fury show or whether or not it's Agents of S.W.O.R.D, which could be what might be introduced in WandaVision, and also I think Falcon and Winter Soldier might include it. So whether or not we see any more of that, but I know there's a lot of news now starting to come in about Hawkeye and Miss Marvel and the She-Hulk as well. It's all starting to move around and all things are starting to kick back in. But also they're going to be planning these series to film them probably with smaller casts, smaller crew, and make some adjustments so they make sure they can keep filming them. But yeah, I think the Marvel idea is going to start kicking in when we get with this one. Then we're going to get Falcon and Loki, and they can kind of keep that thing going. And I think we're about to hit that. We've been on that Marvel. We've been on that starvation of content from Marvel, and now it's starting to feel like we're getting close to it. We can sort of smell it.
Yeah, I mean, we should have gotten it much, much closer to launch. It should have probably started popping in around the time of Mandalorian ending if they were going to do it properly. They would have had to have started filming earlier, obviously. But yeah, considering it's one of the pillars that they built Disney Plus on, it would have been nice to get it earlier. Quarantine notwithstanding.
Yeah, I mean, we would have probably just been finishing up Falcon and the Winter Soldier had it dropped in August like it was supposed to. So we wouldn't have had that one there. But then you look back at like 2020 of going, how we got High Fidelity, and then we had got Love Victor, and then we'd got that one there. we would have been in a better situation. And I also think they did hold some stuff back from the summer to slide them into the winter. Things like, like Meet the Chimps. I think that was originally going to be out in the summer. They kind of pushed that one back. But yeah, we're just going to have to get used to it. But we've also got Mandalorian 2 that's dropping literally in about 4 to 5 weeks' time. A lot of excitement about that. Lots of merchandise being announced. Lots of stuff kicking in. All getting ready for Mandalorian season 2. Right. So this week,
just wanted to drop one thing in because you mentioned this very quickly, and I don't think a lot of people know what it is. Agents of S.W.O.R.D.
Yeah.
Traditionally, S.W.O.R.D has been the space branch of S.H.I.E.L.D. And I'm kind of hoping they go with like the comics interpretation of this because it's a fascinating series, and I hope they bring in Agent Brand, who is normally the lead of S.W.O.R.D.
Because is he in from Shang-Chi?
Fury or Brand?
No, there's another guy that runs, because I think there's been reports that Shang-Chi could lead into S.W.O.R.D as well.
Yeah. Well, first of all, Brand is a woman, just to be.
I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Most people don't know who Brand is. She hasn't featured prominently outside of S.W.O.R.D. But there's a lot of potential in that. It could be part of Shang-Chi. It could be part of WandaVision. Kind of makes sense a little bit in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Honestly, it would make most sense in Captain Marvel because she did become part of S.W.O.R.D for a while there, along with Alpha Flight of all teams, which was weird. I think they only used Alpha Flight because Flight was in the name. That's the Canadian superhero team for those keeping track. In any event, sorry, this is a little bit of a tangent, but I just wanted to make sure that Agents of S.W.O.R.D didn't just kind of float away there.
Yeah. Right. Nevertheless, before we get into some of the review stuff, just want to jump into do the trending. So this is what's currently trending on Disney Plus as of right now in the US. So we have Toy Story 2, Zootopia, Monsters Inc., Lion King, Incredibles 2, Tangled, Aladdin, Hamilton, Cars, The Magic of Disney's Animal Kingdom, which is, we'll be talking about that one in a bit. Nice to see that one actually already making the list.
Yeah,
Star Wars: The Clone Wars.
It wasn't on the list when I was watching it earlier, so I'm glad to see it pop on there. Animal Kingdom, that is.
Yeah, Toy Story, Coco, Avengers Endgame, Toy Story 4, Jessie, Frozen, The Mandalorian, Phineas and Ferb, Secret Society of the Second Born Royals has hit in the top. I think that's number 6, so that's good to see that one in there. Frozen 2, Once Upon a Time has moved in. Not at all surprised to see that. That's a proper binge-worthy show. I'm just coming to the end of season 1 myself. And then Moana, Mickey Mouse Clubhouse, and The Simpsons. Nice to see both new entries this week, both originals getting in there. Maybe not. Just nice to see them jump, and that's quite quick as well, because sometimes the trending tab doesn't update quickly. So that was quite interesting to see them two in there. But let's talk about them now. What did you watch from this week from those two?
Both of them. So which do you want to talk about first?
We'll start with Secret Society of the Second Born Royals. What did you think of that one?
So rather than doing a proper review, which we'll get to in a second, this is how I kind of figured it in my head. I enjoyed my time with it. Hour and a half movie. Shut the brain off. That's a critical part of it. Did enjoy it. Wouldn't watch it again. But if they announced a sequel or an order to TV or something like that, I'd watch that. So that's kind of where it sits to me.
To be honest, I couldn't say that any more differently than myself. I went into it not expecting to like it and liked it. It was a bit. I call it Marvel Light. It's a kind of a cross between X-Men and Kingsman, but with a Disney Channel mix. I wasn't expecting that. I enjoyed it. It was about. I do think it was about right timing. And if they brought out another one, which I would hope they would, if enough people watch it. It's funny because a lot of people have been complaining about it not being Disney Channel-y enough, no music, and it being too light of a Marvel movie. And it's like, it doesn't appeal to one and it doesn't appeal to the other. And I'm like going, okay, I kind of thought that was okay. I didn't, I thought the story it was very, very cliched. It hit all the notes on it, but it kind of felt like, I wouldn't say necessarily my first superhero movie. It was kind of like something, if you wanted to get someone into superheroes, this was a good way of kind of bringing people in.
It is extremely superhero light, and I would actually put it more on the Kingsman side. Yes, they have
Yeah.
superpowers, but they're really low key
Mm.
powers for the most part. I mean, like the main character's power is just super senses.
Yeah.
She's already beaten by Wolverine, who also has claws and healing factor on top of his super
Yeah.
senses. But that's not really the point. In fact, the powers play into it very, very little.
Well, I think that's called special effects, and that would require more money.
The special effects were definitely TV budget size, and you could definitely tell which scenes they decided to spend the money on versus some. Like that scene when she's running away and the bricks are getting hurled at, I was just like, I'm pretty sure I could have done that.
Yeah, there was a bit like kind of thing of going, maybe sometimes less is more. Sometimes less is more. And the special effects were very much along the lines of, we've got 5 people's powers, and we've got all of them. 5 of them don't require any special effects in the slightest.
I think the biggest special effects were having that guy getting followed around by bugs. I mean, that was the hardest one, because obviously they weren't going to train bugs to like catch her jumping off a building and things like that. But definitely approach it more as a silly teen drama. Drama's too strong a word, but teen story, coming of age, masked behind some weird royal thing where apparently royals are genetic. I don't. That was kind of weird.
Yeah, You have to be born into royalty. You have to,
Oh yeah, but
I know we've sent ours over there. That's a different issue. But generally, you have you do they have the royal line, the royal.
No. I get that. I get how hereditary monarchies work.
Yeah.
No, but the way they present it is like it's literally in your DNA. There's like a gene that is royalty. That was like that was the huge thing on the plot. I'm just like, this is ridiculous. This is absolutely ridiculous. I get hereditary. That's different.
If that's the worst thing you think from this movie, that's
no. I could definitely go deeper than that, but it's not worth it.
No. I don't know. In some ways, it's like I don't know if I don't know if they're pitching it right, because like the trailer and the posters, it's like, who are they aiming this at? I think it's a good movie to watch this weekend. It's a good family movie. Kids are going to enjoy it. Parents can tolerate it. I think that might be the way of going through it. And it's this kind of like weird thing of going, okay, so I don't know. It's like it was just such a weird way of, because I don't know if they advertise it as a Disney Channel movie, you're going to alienate some people. But then if you get people coming in expecting it to be something bigger than it is, you can tell the difference between this and Artemis Fowl in terms of the budget between a real movie and a TV movie.
Yeah. And you have to pitch your expectations accordingly. Like I said right at the beginning, just turn your brain off. Otherwise, you're going to pick that movie apart.
Well, the trouble is as well, I think this is the thing ultimately with the moving things like Artemis Fowl, Onward, and the one and only Ivan and things like that. Is sometimes those movies, the budgets are so much higher that's what we've associated that with Disney Plus movies for a few months, and it's like, well, yeah, we're going back down into where it should have been, because this should have been dropped in July. This got pushed back. This is again one of those situations of they pushed this one back to spread everything out a little bit. But I enjoyed it. I can't really say that enough. Really, it was a lot better than I was expecting, and I would definitely recommend watching it.
Yeah, granted, it was a very low bar to cross. You go in. It's a Disney Channel movie. You kind of set your expectations at that level. It meets those expectations. You have a little bit of fun. There is a tiny bit of music in it right at the beginning. But
well, I can tell you, because I got to do a story today on the soundtrack. There's actually only three. It's only got 3 tracks. That's how little music there is in it.
Yeah, and I think at least one of them is a cover too. So if you set your expectations low enough, it's perfectly fine. That sounded really bad. It's perfectly fine. Second screen watching, maybe while you're doing something, have it up on the other screen and just kind of listen in. Enjoy it for what it is, and then set it aside, and you'll never touch it again.
Yeah, no, but it's not too bad. Not too bad. Moving on from there, we had the magic of Disney's Animal Kingdom, and I keep trying to say having the word magic in there with Animal and Disney, I keep wondering this, the amount of times I've typed the magic of Magic Kingdom, because of the name is just like, we didn't need you don't put Magic and Kingdom and Disney all in the same side sentence and not expect me to put Magic Kingdom together. Well, that's my own little thing.
The magic of the PhilharMagic at Magic Kingdom. No.
So what did you think of this series? Because you only saw the first episode, because that's the only one they released, wasn't it?
Right. So you've seen several episodes because you got.
I've seen the whole season. I've actually seen. Season. I did. That's why I did there was a video review on Monday, and I did a review. I did do, and I've merged them all together because rather than doing them individually, because it kind of. But yeah, so I have actually seen the whole season. So this will be running right through till November. But what did you think of it first?
I enjoyed it well enough. It's documentary light. It's very straightforward, simple. But it's fun to see that kind of behind the scenes look at Disney. You don't get to see this by going to the Animal Kingdom. And just kind of the things that you don't realize they have to factor in because they're running a zoo, basically. And yeah, just getting to see that was very interesting. Josh Gad did a good job on the narration. He doesn't get intrusive. He doesn't try to inject stupid jokes into it or anything like that. And just getting to be with the animals, in this case, giraffe and elephant primarily, was fun. It was a nice break from quarantine to be not quite I'm at Animal Kingdom, but still to like capture just a little bit of that.
Yeah, so every episode I think focuses on like 2 or 3 different animals. So the animals you see generally in like that episode you won't see again. They'll move on to different ones, which is kind of good. It is very light. It kind of, to be honest, they could have called this Secrets of the Zoo the Animal Kingdom, and that would have been kind of what it is. You know, if you ever watch Secrets of the Zoo, you know what you're going to be getting. I'm going to be honest, I did not like Josh Gad. If they had somebody else narrating it, it would have been a damn sight better because it just kept bringing me back to being Frozen. His voice of just being like he's talking to a kid. And it was just, I just really found it, it's just his voice. And even if he's talking as an adult, it just kept reminding me that, I don't know, it was the one thing, it's like if you could have put a different narrator on this, it would have been you could have had the same edits, the same show completely, and just have a different narrator, and it would have been a different show entirely, just by the tone of his voice to me. And I wasn't so keen on his voice.
I can see that. His voice doesn't really lend itself to narration. He's not the kind of person you would expect of that. I'm just glad that he didn't go over the top. He wasn't doing like an Olaf voice. He wasn't doing I can't remember the side character, Gaston's little sidekick from Beauty and the Beast. He there we go. And he was just speaking normally. He does have a fairly distinctive voice, but he wasn't going weird with it. He was just reading it, and he was aiming it at kids. And I think this show is aimed at a younger audience, which doesn't mean it's not accessible to adults, or adults are going to be rolling their eyes. Just don't go in expecting, Attenborough or whatever.
Yeah, I just feel like had they had somebody else do the narration, the tone could have set this up a few more years. It's just my own issue. Like the actual stories they were doing and what they were telling us, it was all a little bit fluffy. It was a kind of feeling of, obviously Disney are trying to show off the Animal Kingdom and trying to portray, how great it is and how lovely they are with the animals and all the rest of it. But obviously having real issues of, them being a zoo. And I understand that. And it was just a kind of thing of going, I kind of got to the end of the season and was like, I enjoyed that. I want to see more of that. I think this is a show that could just keep running. Plenty of life in this series. Just needs a few tweaks to make it, I don't know. That was it was just Josh Gad was the only thing I didn't like about it, and that was it. Really, that was the only thing I didn't like.
We do have one of your royals over here, and she does have documentary experience.
Yeah. Please don't. We won't go there that one.
Honestly, you could get pretty much anyone to do it. Just you have to do it with a neutral voice, and I think Josh Gad was doing a neutral voice, but his neutral voice is still Josh Gad. So I can see where you're coming from that. And I can understand if other people would have the same. It didn't bother me, but I do understand that. And it wouldn't bother me if they pulled someone else in for second season, but I would like to see a second season, get us some of the other animals, show us the daily life. It was fun seeing the giraffe just being a giraffe and being like, yeah, I'm not getting on that stool. I don't care if you're offering food at me. I'm not getting on that stool.
Yeah, I mean, I like Secrets of the Zoo. We have a UK version of that for London Zoo. There's a Taronga Zoo version from Sydney that's going to be coming to Disney Plus in America in a few weeks. You also got a couple of other zoos that they do this. So they've kind of done this show before. So I think it is, and that's what I think. It's like Secrets of the Zoo, Animal Kingdom would have been a better version of it than the magic of Disney's. It's like they kind of Disney and.
I want to go to Philhar Magic now.
Yeah, it's just kind of one of those things. I think I definitely enjoyed it. I'm glad I've seen it. It was a good show. I'm glad they are dropping it weekly for people, so you can kind of spread it out a bit, enjoy it. Might have been an issue for me of why the watching like 8 episodes over like 2 weeks. I kind of got in that thing of going, okay, let's move him along a little bit, but. It wasn't it was a lot better than because I was going, please don't do Disney Nature. Please don't do Disney Nature with this. And they didn't. And luckily they did tone it right. Just this, and I love like there's some stuff coming up in 8 episodes with a manatee, and I'm going to be honest, I'm going to explain this now. It's a bit of a spoiler. A manatee ends up getting an abscess on its tail.
I can see where this is going.
And so they had to like pop it and syringe out some of the gunk. And then they had to put another thing in and squeeze it full of water. And there's all this pus and blood shooting all over the place. And it just reminded me of the Pimple Popper TV series. My wife loves that one. I was like, oh my word, that is pretty gross. And I'm going, okay, Disney, you kind of you pulled this one in a little bit. I like the fact, they did show a little bit of blood and guts and pus and stuff. And yeah.
So not blood and guts and pus, but I have to admit I was getting a little bit worried in the elephant section where they're talking about the elephant being, they're going on a date. They have to keep the species going. I'm like, oh, where's this going? I'm not sure. Fortunately, they backed off on that, but I'm like, you kind of skirting it a little there.
Yeah, no, it's a good series. I would definitely recommend it if you love animals, if you want to know more about the animal kingdom, and I think. Sometimes it gets a little bit lost when you're at the Animal Kingdom. I mean, one of my favorite parks. I love it there. And I think that's the difference. So when you're watching it and you're going, oh, yeah, that's around there. And you know that guy. Oh, I've seen this gorilla and I've seen this tiger. And there's going to be so many of us that are Disney fans that are going to know that. And that's why it's going to pull in a big audience because people are going to know those animals and know those environments. And that's going to have a big impact. And they do go over to Animal Lodge. They also go over to Epcot. Yeah, and it was just it's a really good, solid documentary series. And yeah, literally my only complaint was Josh Gad. And the rest of it, I enjoyed it all. I really enjoyed the series. I'm sure everybody else is going to enjoy it too.
And I think, as you mentioned, stretching it out to 8 weeks will probably be a better viewing experience than binging it straight up, which we get the option of doing, even if you didn't.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's just some of those things. Normally with preview ones, I usually just get a couple episodes, so it was one of those things. Moving on from there, this past week, I just wanted to talk. They added Call of the Wild onto Disney Plus in the UK yesterday. And since I was having a bit of a day at home, just recuperating a bit from getting a bit of a cold, we watched it. And it was kind of weird. Have you seen Call of the Wild?
I have not. It might be on HBO Max. I know my library has a copy of it, but I haven't seen it.
Yeah, it went on to HBO Max, I think, in the US, because obviously you got the HBO deal, so everything's slowing down in terms of how things. But like UK, Australia, I mean, Australia's getting Ford versus Ferrari next week. They're starting. We had Spies in the Skies as well, so we are getting these 20th century studio movies. And I watched it, and it was that kind of weird thing of going. Kind of got to the end and went, I preferred Togo. I think Togo was a better movie. The one thing that really annoyed me is the CGI, because the dog is CGI for the whole movie. And the minute you start watching it, and it was in 4K, and I go, oh, that's a bit. And my wife goes, oh, that looks a bit. And I'm like, oh, yeah, this is not good. I mean, eventually you kind of get used to it. But the whole story was really weird. I mean, there was some good points. Got quite a good cast in there as well. You got like Dan Stevens. I think I saw Karen Gillian in there as well. Harrison Ford doesn't really have much to do. It's pretty much all about the dog. Right. He's barely in it. My wife goes, "Oh my god, he's got old." He looks like
He
he really does look an old, haggard actor there.
Well, that's why they killed off Han Solo, probably. But I remember we discussed the trailer when it came
Yeah,
out, like 2 decades ago at this point.
I think well,
Uh,
came the movie came out in February.
right. And we saw the trailer, I think, in maybe like October last year. It was one of the first episodes we did of
Yeah,
this podcast, actually, after Disney Plus had come out by
yeah,
itself. And I remember one of the talking points was like, why is the dog CGI? Why is this? I can understand, like, there's some scenes. I've read the book. I haven't seen
yeah.
the movie, but I know the book. There are certainly some sequences like, no, don't have a real dog do that. Use a CGI dog for, going over the waterfall and things like that. But why is him just like walking up a path? Why is that a CGI dog? We've been training dogs for thousands of years. We've been using dogs in movies for almost as long as we've had movies. Just use a dog.
I think they were able to kind of portray a lot more humanity in him. In some way, they were able to really kind of show much more facial expressions in the dog, and kind of it made him like almost human. I really enjoyed it. I watched. It was kind of one of those things. Again, yeah, this will be really good. And so, it's like such a shame. Well, it's a shame everyone can't really, all the Americans and stuff can't watch this for a while, because this would have been a great drop for this weekend. And that HBO, all these deals that they keep messing everything up. But yeah, I just thought I'd just mention Call of the Wild. I know it's not very, like I said, it's only in the UK at the minute and Ireland, but just to be honest, it made this month's subscription fee worth it just for that movie alone for me.
Granted,
I really enjoyed it, and I'm sure a lot of people are going to enjoy that one when that finally drops.
I'm looking forward to both that and Spies in the Skies when those drop over here. I will also mention we did get a movie this week, though, back catalog one, which was Hidden Figures. It's a good primer for the right stuff. Covers some of the same material, but attacks it from a completely different angle, and it does make you appreciate just how much hard work went into getting these guys into space, and some of the crazy challenges you don't even think about that they had to deal with.
Well, it's interesting because I know like that one and Fault in Our Stars, they didn't arrive in the UK or anywhere else, or only in the US and Canada. I did say to my wife about whether or not she'd seen Hidden Figures, because I haven't seen that movie. I think I've seen a little bit of Fault in Our Stars. I know my wife loved that movie. For me, it was like, no, it's just a movie I wouldn't pick on my own. That's kind of, but Hidden Figures is on my watch list that I want to try and watch in the coming weeks ahead. It's just very noticeable of like the last few weeks and the last few months of these kind of movies dropping on from 20th century that you wouldn't have associated 6 months ago. We are, and that whole idea of them doing the 20th century studio section, it's starting to feel a little bit more real, because we are seeing some more, they are pushing that PG-13 and kind of going, yeah, no, we can put, because a lot of people talking about Clouds and Fault in Our Stars going, really? You're putting these things on there? It's like, they're pushing the boundaries a little. It's not a lot, but it's making, I think, like Ford versus Ferrari, I think that's a great addition.
I'm very much looking forward to that one. I think that was in theaters right around the time everything started shutting down.
It was late November, I think it was.
Okay, so it was before.
But Call of the Wild was literally like 2-3 weeks before.
Yeah.
So, and then it was Spies in the Skies was Christmas, and then that was that one. And then I'm trying to think what was next. So it was all around that sort of. It was that winter where Disney kind of, they're still trying to work. And like I said, they don't want to spend any more money on these Fox movies. That seems to be the general.
So what I'm hearing is we should expect Aliens and Predators by, what do you think?
January, when they get,
I was going to think more like April or May. They got to stretch it out a bit.
Yeah, I mean, I'm to be honest, I'd be quite happy for them to be on there, but I know we're still waiting on that investor day to find out. There was a date. I was getting them up on like Livestorm, and we all like they'd previously hosted it. Then we got told no, that's not the date. That's not happening. So we still don't know when this investor day, whether or not they've changed their mind or whether or not they're doing something different. Whether or not they saw the reaction to Star, I don't know. It's very, very strange. They're still not announced when that one's going to be coming. Hopefully we'll find that one out soon enough. But I think that pretty much, yeah.
To be clear, we're talking about them putting it on Hulu, not Disney Plus.
Yeah, come on, put Aliens on there. It'd be great.
I'm totally down for it, but I I understand that people might not want to have aliens
You know,
sitting next to Mulan.
oh no, you know, and after you've watched Aliens, it was saying that if we recommend The Rocketeer and then, you know, Mickey
The kids
Mouse's
one. The kids
Adventures,
one.
yeah, the new Disney version, because we know how the recommended has no context at all. It
It's
literally is like
some of them are so weird. So
it's like
I mean, sorry, go ahead.
it's like what is it? What's it's connected the tag where it says Disney? Is that literally the entire like basing it off? It's like yeah, the system really does need a lot more. It's like you look at the recommendation, and that's not a recommendation. It's just a random draw.
Yeah, sometimes it does make sense. Like I remember when The Mandalorian was first coming out, back when the Disney Plus first opened, every week it was like, you watch The Mandalorian. Would you like to watch Empire Strikes Back? Actually, I kind of would like to watch Empire Strikes Back. But then in the last couple of weeks, I think I finished up Second Born Royals. It's like, you watch Second Born Royals. Would you like to watch Phineas and Ferb? Where are you drawing the connection here?
I think it's the one that when it comes up, I think we watched like I can't even think of what it was, like The Mandalorian or something. And then it goes, "Would you like to watch Puppy Dog Pals?" And yeah,
Seen that
no,
one.
yeah. But that doesn't like it recommends Puppy Dog Pals or Mickey Mouse Clubhouse, and going, yeah, no, that's not going to happen.
No, that was what it was. I was watching The Mighty Ducks, the first one, which we're going to talk about here for a special episode for the Patreon subscribers first, and then also everyone else get it a week later. I watched that, and at the end of it, it's like, would you like to watch Avalon High? Like, wait, what? These movies aren't connected at all, and they're separated by like 20 years. What are you doing?
Yeah, no. So it is an odd one, but right. Nevertheless, that pretty much wraps up this week's episode. Like I said, if you haven't already done so, make sure you do check us out over at whatsondisneyplus.com. Follow us on Twitter to keep up with the latest. You can find us on Facebook. Got our Facebook group as well, 136,000 members. So lots of discussion going in there about everything. And also you can find us on YouTube, etc. And you can help support the channel. So big thank you again to all of our supporters. Next week will be episode 100, where we'll be depends on the news or what we'll be talking about. But it might just be a bit of a kind of a look back at Disney and where it's going, where Disney Plus and where it's going. We kind of might do a little bit of a push forward and a push back as our theme for next week. Depending on if there's some major news, then we'll do that instead. That's kind of, and so we go, what are you doing for the 100? It's like, yeah, we're not going to have a big stage with fireworks and, you know. It's like, you know, some that's some party poppers or something. But, yeah, it's just
we don't currently have good relationships with fires out here in the Midwest right now. I think those people are still getting well-deserved flack for their gender reveal that lit half our state on fire. Yeah, that was fun.
On that note, on that note, so we shall see you guys next week with another episode.
No fireworks.
No fireworks. Maybe a party popper, but nevertheless, we shall see you guys soon. Laters.